Welcome everyone. The purpose of this video is to go over the insurance program quote using Invesco's insurance spreadsheet. So the Excel file you are looking at, it will be made available to you or has been, and your responsibility is to enter all the information that is in cells colored in this sort of tannish color. So I picked a multifamily asset in Austin, Texas. So I entered the location name as Austin, the insured name is Invesco. You see it's a drop down for the property type. So in this case, I would select apartments because this is garden style and not a high-end apartment. I would then I would enter the address, I would type the city. The state needs to be in the two-letter form, the zip code, and then the county. So those are all critical pieces that need to be entered. What we end up doing here now is entering in other data to actually get to the quote. So under general liability and umbrella excess liability, we need to enter in the number of units if it's residential, the acreage if it's land, everything else in square feet. So this apartment property was 148 units, so we entered 148. We now need to enter the gross square footage of the property. And the way we calculate this is the total square footage of the property as generally indicated in the offering memorandum times 1.15. And the additional 15% is represents, hallways, elevator lobbies that aren't counted in a rentable square footage arrangement. Because when you're insuring an apartment building, you're insuring everything and you're not just insuring that which is rentable from a square footage standpoint. So the square footage of the building is 129,073 square feet, and we are grossing that up by a factor of 1.15. So now we need to come to the replacement cost. So this price per square foot is identified by virtue of the cost to replace the building. Now this isn't this is essentially the insurable value of the building. It has absolutely nothing to do with the market value of the building. It's just the insurable cost. So if you had to rebuild it, how much would the reconstruction of the building actually cost? The way we understand that is we use a RS Means, which is a contractor's sort of website to be able to determine that. So if you go to this website here, rsmeans.com, so go ahead and click on it. Essentially what it will bring up here is a way to calculate the actual replacement cost of the property. So let's enter in our project title, Austin Multifamily. We have a two-story apartment complex, so I will enter this, or I will use the apartment 1 to 3. Our square footage, if you will recall, is roughly 148,433 or something thereabouts, and our zip code is 78734, also I believe. So we would hit calculate. So this is an Austin, Texas apartment. And you see the total cost, the contractor's overhead and profit, the architectural fees, and the total building cost. So you see low, medium, high. For reasons that have been not explained to me, you need to focus always on the medium and the total building cost. So our replacement cost in this case is going to be essentially $16 million. So we will use that number and then go back to our financial model, or to our insurance template. We determined from the RS Means website that the replacement cost for our building is essentially $16 million. So if we take this $16 million number and divide it by the square footage, we get a price per square foot of $108, which is essentially the building replacement cost is close to what we had indicated. So this number in cell B11 doesn't need to be exact. If you recall, our number was $16,011,500. This number at $16,030,867 is just fine. So again, we have determined the price per square foot in terms of insurable value from the website, which calculates the building replacement cost. What we next need to do is then take from our financial model what the effective gross income is. So you would go back to your Excel financial model, the Invesco model. You would take the year one EGI, your pro forma year one, and enter that number here. So in this case, it's a little under $2.5 million. So these are all critical specs that are required to help you calculate the actual insurable value. So now we're going to flip over to this section. And what this section is solely for are unusual sort of circumstances. So if your property is in California in an earthquake zone, zone A, B, all other zones, you would need to make essentially selections here which identify where this property is from an earthquake zone. So we would go to this tab here called California Earthquake Zones, and you would go identify the city in which your property is located, and then you would determine the earthquake zone. So if this property was in Moss Beach, our earthquake zone is A1. So you would come back here and you would select A1 for your earthquake zone. So you would, or excuse me, that's for non-residential. So ours is residential, so we would need to enter that down here for the residential only. So this would be A1, okay? And then there's all other earthquake zones here as well. And you can see here's an if-then statement. If our property was in the Pacific Northwest, in Florida or Hawaii, or in Harris County, Texas, that's a wind. Well, I'm sorry, the Pacific Northwest is also earthquake. The wind is actually, the tier 1 wind is relating to Florida, Hawaii, and Harris County. So you can see the formula is actually requests Harris County, which is why you need to write the county explicitly. Our property is not in California, so we have no earthquake coverage. It's not in the Pacific Northwest. It's not in Florida, Hawaii, or Harris County, Texas. And we're presuming it's not in a flood zone. So you'll need to review your offering memorandum to determine if it is in a flood zone. But for the purposes of this asset, they did not indicate that the property was in a flood zone, so we're going to assume not. So that is all that you need to enter. But from here, you can scroll down to actually get the premium. So your insurance premium would be $33,948. So all that simply means is your year one pro forma expense for insurance is going to be a hair under $34,000. So when you're entering your pro forma operating expense budget, you would go to your expenses tab, and in the upper center of that tab, you would enter for insurance $33,948. So that concludes the 101 on our insurance template.